How to install a single, double, or triple external housing or a Spartan with your Ionizer. For this video, we're using a double housing, but the same instructions apply whether you're using a single, a double, or a triple housing, or a Spartan. You also might already have your Ionizer installed and you're simply adding a pre-filter, or you may be installing a new Ionizer for the first time with pre-filtration. Either way, these instructions will apply to either situation. For ease of demonstration, we're showing this procedure on the tabletop today. Much of the time your pre-filter will be located under the sink. It is possible to install it on the countertop next to your sink if you desire to do so, and you have your Ionizer connected with a diverter to your kitchen faucet. The first thing to do when you get your new pre-filter is to make sure that the filters are installed in the housing. We're showing today a fluoride filter. Your filter may look different. It may be a different filter depending on your particular needs. To open a housing, it might be easiest to lay the housing down on the countertop like this. You may need to use the filter wrench that comes with the housing to open the canisters. To do this, slide the wrench onto one of the housings, hold the housing firmly with your left hand, grasp the wrench, and pull it towards you to loosen the filter housing. Once it's loosened, you can unscrew the housing the rest of the way by hand. Then you will insert your filter into the housing. This is a fluoride filter and it has a rubber gasket on one end. That rubber gasket always goes upward toward the lid or the cap. Some filters are bidirectional and can be inserted into the canister either direction. Some other filters may have an indicator on the filter housing itself, or they might be wider at one end so that you can't physically put it in one direction. This will depend on your particular filters. Once the filter is inserted into the housing and standing upright, you'll need to secure it to the lid. This can be a challenge. Sometimes it's difficult, especially with a double or triple housing. You may need someone to help you hold it, or you may need to use the mounting screws and have it mounted under the counter where it's going to permanently be located. But basically you will match up the housing to the lid and tighten it by hand, and then be sure to tighten it the rest of the way using the filter wrench to ensure that there is no leaking. So now you will push away to tighten the housing. Now that we've installed the first filter in our housing, if you have a two filter housing, your next step will be to repeat that procedure and install the second filter. If you have a triple housing, you'll repeat the procedure a third time to install the third filter. Once all the filters are installed, it's time to flush them. Always flush your external filters by themselves before you connect them to your Ionizer. To do this, we will start with cutting a piece of tubing that comes with the housing, and cut it to the length that works for your installation. You'll connect one end of this tubing to the port on the housing marked in, and it's marked on the top of the housing. So one end, that'll connect in there, and the other end of this tube will connect to your source water. It might be your diverter on your faucet, in which case it would connect here, or it may be to your angle stop adapter, which is installed in your cold water line under the sink. If you're connecting it to the angle stop adapter, remember that the valve on the top should be off initially. This turns the water off from going through the tubing. And then when you're ready to flush the filters or turn the water on to test your ionizer, you'll turn the lever so that it's in line with the tubing. So for right now, it'll be in the off position. Once you've connected that first tube, you'll cut another length of tubing that will be installed in the outside of the housing. And at this point, you're ready to flush the filters. So you will turn the source water on and either have a bucket ready where you can flush into the bucket, or if it's up on the countertop and you can put this into the sink, then flush it into the sink. You'll turn your source water on. Usually takes 1 to 2 minutes to flush the filters out until the water runs clear. Then you can turn the source water back off for the rest of the installation. Occasionally, you might need or want to flush your external filters separately. If this is the case, we have more detailed instructions. Please refer to our video, how to replace your filters and flush your filters in an external housing. Now that the filters are flushed, we're ready to connect the external housing to our ionizer. For this demonstration, we're using a Melody 2 ionizer, but this procedure will be the same no matter what model ionizer you're connecting to. You'll lay the ionizer gently on its back, and we're going to connect this tube that goes from the side marked out. We're going to connect it to the tap inlet on the bottom of your ionizer. So this tube will connect right there. You'll press the tube into the fitting. Make sure to support the fitting with your other hand and firmly insert the tube all the way. So to install this EOS, if we're going to install it in this system, we would place it between the pre-filtration, or your external filters, and your ionizer. So if we were going to add this EOS into this installation, we would take this tube and actually insert it into one end of the EOS. And your arrow should point with the water flow going into your ionizer. Then you would need another little length of tubing to insert in the other end of the EOS. And then finally connecting to the tap inlet at the bottom of the ionizer. Always making sure that you get the tubing pushed all the way in. If you notice any leaking from one of these connection points once you turn the water on, the first thing to check is to make sure the tubing is installed all the way. So once it's installed properly, connected, you will set your ionizer upright, and you're ready now to flush the filters in your ionizer, or if your ionizer was already installed and in use, you won't need to flush the filters, but you'll need to turn the source water back on and test the entire system. So once the source water is turned on at either the diverter at the faucet or at the cold water line, then turn the knob on the front of the ionizer all the way to the left to the on position. Usually takes a minute or so for the water to make its way through the filters and through the machine and start flowing out the machine. Make sure that your ionizer is plugged in. Once the water flow starts, the display should light up If you're flushing your ionizer filters, make sure to choose the Purified Setting. Let the water run for 1 to 2 minutes or until the water runs clear with no carbon dust or filter dust in it. Once the filters are flushed, or if you're simply testing the system, make sure to check your connection points for any leaking. And once you're all done, you can turn the water back off. Your installation is complete and you're ready to enjoy your water.